to welcome to the second closing ceremony of Now What, this iteration. And the theme here is breakthrough to wholeness. And it has a phrase before that that I created as a theme, beyond trauma, breakthrough to wholeness. And that's actually revelatory for me to be on the bandwagon of beyond trauma, breakthrough to wholeness. And it feels absolutely right and timely. And COP26 cinched it for me. There was this liberation I felt from COP26, and so much gratitude to Greta Thunberg for being the voice of this. Breakthrough to wholeness, we got to do it. Of course, we've known this, but there was something ritualistic for me about COP26 and being led, I think, by Greta Thunberg that said, this is the signal that it's on us. It's always been on us, but this was the signal to go beyond trauma, breakthrough to wholeness, breakthrough to what we're really capable of and what we are here to do, right, Rob? So Lev Natan, who I learned about through the master networker, Ben Roberts, and who I am, he's like Mishbrucha. If anybody knows what that word means besides Lev, Mishbrucha, kin, family, Mishbrucha. And he is a bridge builder, and he is a bridge. Not just a bridge builder, he is a bridge. And I love that in him. One of the engagement streams I did for Now What was called Bridge Building. And here we are building bridges as a way forward, breakthrough to wholeness. Lev is an author. I didn't know that until just the other day. He's an author. He's the founder of Alliance for a Viable Future. He has developed a entire program. So you have to share this discovery with me. Climate leadership. He has an entire series on climate leadership that is beyond trauma, breakthrough to wholeness. And we hope to bring it on to the Climate Change and Consciousness Network in 2022, where we will continue the theme of beyond trauma, breakthrough to wholeness. So I'm prolonging the introduction a bit as we wait for Lev to get to his office. And I also found out, and Claire might be very interested to hear this, maybe you already know it, but I didn't know it, that Lev Natan is a certified integrative sound and music practitioner.
I can't remember if Lev and I have chatted, actually, because I think I know that because I did some research. Lev, presumably you can actually hear what we're saying, and saw some lovely images on his site.
I wondered, speaking of that, if maybe we should do your Earth song first and then do the ritual with Lev.
We could do that. Yeah, it's a little strange to do it that way around, but I think
it's not. We can.
Hi guys, I'm just getting in here to my office. I apologize, and just gonna get my computer booted up. So
Okay.
It'll just take less than a minute. Just gonna open
No
it
worries.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I was just going to add that the idea of beyond trauma, breakthrough to wholeness, feels like it fits so well into lots of what's been going on, particularly particularly the Healthy Human Culture series that Sophie Banks offered with some support from Dita and others, that for me was a real highlight, and was very much about understanding the process of trauma, not only at an individual level, but at a societal level, and how we respond to that. And then, of course, we have our theme always in Now What, that we're gathering to practice the art of being fully human in a time of crisis, which feels to me very much along the lines of breaking through to wholeness, being fully human. So,
and I feel that's also the message, actually, of climate change and consciousness, that as our consciousness evolves, as our consciousness evolves, and this is something I'm experiencing every day, every moment, that evolution of consciousness is the breakthrough to wholeness, is what takes us beyond trauma. And it's revelatory for me because, and I'll say this very briefly, and then we'll switch over to Lev, that, I think the idea was, in order to go beyond trauma, we had to resolve all of these things. We had to resolve, the angst and the anger and the rage and the grief. I no longer think that's true. I think there's an evolution in consciousness that occurs that takes us beyond trauma, and those details become less and less pertinent. So I'm hoping to share some more of that in my poem and weave it with Lev's ceremonial beginning that you look completely lined up to deliver now, Lev. So I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you to each and every one of you, and my apologies. I think it's relevant just to share where I was coming from. I was coming from the land that my wife and I are going to be living on with my son for the rest of our lives, and we're just starting to do tree work up there, and it's very powerful to experience that change happening. And so I was driving back here and thinking of this call that we're having together, and just want to begin with acknowledging the lands that we're all on, all around the world, the history of the land, the trees, and all the living beings on all the lands, and Mother Earth here. Just to feel connected in that way. And so I just invite you all to close your eyes. It's helpful for me to do that, to create this opening to the closing. So first, we can just take a deep breath and feel connected in our hearts to all the work that has happened during the last number of weeks, this particular now what, and then all of the now what's that have happened up until now. And then all of the space in between the now what's, because it's a beautiful in breath and out breath throughout the year to have a spring now what, an in breath, and then that out breath of space in between the series, and then the fall happens, the now what. And it's a beautiful breath that happens through the seasons. So just acknowledging the organic, natural cycle that now what exists within. And then I invite us to feel ourselves as these resonating beings that Stephanie was talking about, that when we put our taproot in the ground and say, it is up to me. It does matter what I do here in this lifetime, that I do matter. What I do does matter. What I think matters. What I say matters. And together we can, inspire and aspire together to keep that memory, that remembering in the forefront of our minds, that remembering of the future that we are creating. So with all of that, I invite us to create that space of resonance, to create this vessel that then Claire is going to create more sounds. But I would like to invite us together to make some sounds, to attune to this closing space together, and to have the closing be the beginning of the rest of our lives. Today is the rest of our lives. So we're going to use these ancient vowel sounds here that we all know. We know them since we're babies. My son, he's just 2 years old. He was making these vowel sounds. I heard him when he was just a few months old. So we all know them. So it's not something that we need to learn. It's just a remembering that they're still really wonderful sonic medicine, our sonic medicine chest here. So we can begin just first with the visualization that our hearts and each of our vibrations, when we make these sounds, we're all over the world, that we're creating this resonant field. I invite you to see it as this blue light vibrational field all around the earth, to, in this moment, to be an act of healing for our planet and the consciousness of our planet. So we can begin with that intention, just taking a deep breath and humming together on the exhale. Inhale. And then we can take another breath and root into the earth with the ooh sound, like a taproot of a tree, the ooh sound. Ooh. And then the O sound, focusing on your Hara Dantian, the creative center in your belly, the fire in the belly, that intelligence of the gut. The gut just knows, and it does things. When we listen to it, we just know it in our gut. And then we can know that we move forward with that awareness. Inhale the O sound, fire in the belly. And then the ah sound in the solar plexus and the heart, the courage in the heart, the courage that it takes to stay on this path and just to continue on in a good way, one step at a time. The courage in the heart, inhaling the ah sound. And then the A sound in the throat, the capacity to articulate, to speak your truth, the A sound, slightly higher tone, inhaling. And then the E sound at the top of the head. And in the back of the throat, way back, where in a sense, where the pineal and the pituitary gland meet in the center of your brain too. But we can open up to the guidance from above, from the sun, the moon, and the stars, and all the planets in orbit, and the vast mystery of our universe, our cosmos, and however you understand it, wherever you get guidance from. I invite you to connect with that intelligence, those beings, and the cosmos. Inhale the E sound. And then we'll do one more breath, the Aum sound, A-U-M, the sacred sound of Aum, that integrates all of the sounds, all of the intentions in our being, so that we're all tuned in to ourselves and to each other, the Aum sound. And then just one more hum to ground back into the body all the way. And then inhaling a natural breath. And, if you'd like, you can rub your hands together so they're warm. And just wipe your face. And we can together just listen to Claire continue on in energize this sound chamber that we've now created together.
Thank you. Scott's iPad, could you mute for me?
I did.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Lev. Just feel that aliveness that you are, that we are, more alive together, more vibrant together, more aware together, more intelligent together, more compassionate together, more creative together, always together. Namaste.
The sounds of beyond trauma, breakthrough to wholeness, the alignment with the earth, with the natural world. That's what takes us beyond trauma, is finding the mishbracha, the kinship that we have with the land beneath our feet, the air, the trees, the birds, everything with which we are more alive together. So this poem that actually Rob heard it last night, where I hadn't planned to read it in a gathering, but I could not help myself but read it because of the synchronicity of what was said and the orientation towards the evolution of our activism, our choice to do what we were born to do. We are born for this moment. And that alliance with everything around us and with all of us together guides us. We are born for this moment and for our alliance with each other and with the natural world. All of us, all of us, all of us together. The poem's called Mother. I'm going to suggest, if this feels comfortable to you, you don't have to do this by any means, but if you want to, you could just place your fingertips right under that knobby bone at the beginning of the clavicle and resting. And it would be a comfortable way for you to just take in this poem. So the fingertips just resting on the connective tissue, just on the ledge of that bone. And then the palm of the hand kind of sliding down and onto these ribs and their interstitial territory, just resting there. These are sacred sites where your hands are at peace. And if that's comfortable, this might enhance your experience of this poem. Mother, mother, mother. She shows me her face there, where the old growth hemlock and alder tower and crowd closely to one another, there, right there. Her cheeks are plump with lanky and beaked moss. She is full with smiling at the sight of me. She is full with smiling at the sight of me, looking back at her. It seems not so long ago that I listened alone to the sighing of the night, the violence of the streets, and the loud emptiness of narrow passageways, and sat to meals of frightening food. That was not so long ago that I sat to meals of frightening food in the chilling, ceaseless gray. Now, 77 years later, I greet her at last. Author of my cells, author of my cells. I am your mother, she says simply. I am your mother. I am your mother. Her soft voice carries easily across the cold, rippling belly of her sandy river, as the gold confetti of the season flowers the graveyard of her salmon. Despite our mourning, we are overjoyed to be together. Despite our mourning, we are overjoyed to be together. Just as refugees wearing barbed wire crowns of thorns meet at the border crossing, the dirge at the end of time, the dirge at the end of time plays in the mist, yet nothing can taint the primordial fire ignited by this reunion. I am your mother, she whispers, her hot breath drying the blood on our faces as we melt into one another, and fatigue evaporates like the sweat off a colicky infant. Though hushed with love, her words are amplified as they move through the vaporous megaphone of my body. I join her, I join with her, I join in her in the fog-draped hillsides of spike rush and hydrilla, willow and rushes, and in the dense ropey underbrush of pathways glutted with mulching oak leaves. The moisture oozes through my tissue as she teaches me to melt into this immersion in trust. I am your mother. I am your mother, she repeats, and this is the way to fight. The immersion in trust. I am your mother, she repeats, and this is the way to fight. This is the way of action. This is the way to meet the ignorance of those who do not see me, those who do not yet know. I am their mother. I am their mother. My eyes are closed. And when I open them, I look again out into the old growth canopy, into what once was my mundane vista, just on the other side of the river, out my kitchen window, where at night I stand to wash the dishes.
Thank you, Stephanie. We were talking about washing the dishes just yesterday and feminine ways of knowing. So that's a good segue into some time for anyone who wants to share a few words about your experience with this edition of Now What? Any reflections on what's been going on for you in this time that might not have been technically within the bounds of our little gathering, but anything that happened in these 4 weeks that feels relevant to bring up now? Now What? Attempts to interweave and interpenetrate and bring in anything that's happening in the world that we can connect to. So let's take maybe 15 minutes for this, and then we have a closing ritual from Lev and a song from Suzanne. And then we'll be hanging out beyond the hour for anyone who wants to. The floor is open. You don't have to speak, but all are welcome.
There's something about washing dishes, because I always regularly say that even in an enlightened world, the dishes still need to be washed.
I'd like to just comment. I feel for me, this community becomes more and more subtle. So at the beginning, we were building above ground and things were visible, and the energy of action was very alive. And what I'm noticing for me is that with each iteration, I sort of sink in more quietly and become a little more part of the soil more quietly. And I'm really, there's something so delicate and yet so deeply resilient about that shifting of dynamics that are equally potent, if not more, perhaps, and yet somehow have a longevity to my sensibilities of engagement, my cellular presence. And I'm really enjoying that feeling, I think, of security that has embedded in it as an experience of belonging. Without, I mean, there's an external urgency, but the internal state within that feels solid.
I echo that so much, Claire. I think for me, this time around, it became very evident because I didn't have the time to be so involved somehow directly, and yet I felt even more connected. And I think there is a trust that is just there, magical, and that mycelium and all the things that are growing in the soil of Now What is just amazing. There's these words that are not mine, but from a song of the Huichol people that really kind of sum up how I feel about Now What today. We are all the children of a brilliant colored flower, a flaming flower. And there is no one who regrets who we are. We are all the children of a brilliant color flower, that mother, a flaming flower, And there is no one who regrets who we are.
I love that. I'm putting it in the chat. There is no one who regrets who they are. To me, that's beyond trauma, breakthrough to wholeness. Yeah. And I had what I thought was kind of the opposite experience in this iteration of Now What, because I was so consumed really with what I was generating with Humanity Rising for the COP that just felt so essential. It felt very much to me in my body as I felt creating climate change and consciousness. I must do this. I must do this. I must do this. And even though it doesn't make any sense and it doesn't make any money and it doesn't seem like it's even possible, but I must do this. I must do this. And that was, of course, especially true for me in regard to creating a platform where the youth of Africa could be heard. And the challenges of doing that, which were so many in so many different ways. But throughout that whole process, this sense, I must do this, I must do this, I must do this. And that didn't leave much space left to participate in Now What, in any of the other gatherings. So I kept thinking I should, etc. And I just couldn't. There just was no time or space. And so I felt actually, as Claire was talking about sinking into the security of it, I felt like I was pulling out, I was moving away, but there wasn't anything I could do about it. I just had to follow this insistence. But then as the COP came to a close and I began to see that there were strands weaving, and especially just actually in the last hours, last day or so, of seeing that Ben is starting to weave into the Humanity Rising hive and that others are weaving into the Humanity Rising hive, I see that it's actually all the same thing. And that feels like beyond trauma, breakthrough to wholeness for me, because that duality of you have to leave something if you're going to do something new. You have to end something that doesn't seem like it's the same as where you're going. That duality is a lie. It's all the same thing. These communities come together. And of course, that's what Humanity Rising is talking about, collaboration of, and my understanding when I first met Ben was this was what Ben was talking about. And maybe Ben can speak to that I've always seen him as this master weaver, bringing groups together. And that's where I end up thinking maybe I was pulling out, realizing that actually I'm still in and there's just growth happening.
I want to hear the kookaburras. You might have to turn on original sound for Zoom to pick them up if they're distant.
If they start calling again, I'll go out straight away. But I just wanted to acknowledge them calling as Stephanie was speaking.
Like a punctuation mark, exclamation point.
But one of the things about living in this beautiful place, I live on the edge of an amazing forest and mountain, is the deepening association with all that is cohabiting in this area. And I've come to understand, Ben, there's a conversation going on if I only still my mind and listen. And that frequently those punctuated are a comment, actually.
So are the roosters talking to the kookaburras?
The funniest thing is, like, I'm working here, you know, mostly I'm in silence, and then occasionally I'm on Zoom and I start to speak. And I also have a frog that just lives in behind a picture frame next to me, and has lived in my home for 2 years. This is this frog's preferred residence, and he will join in at times as well when I'm speaking.
So I have to add that Sue and I have been working closely together in terms of creating a platform for these 3 youth who did speak from Sierra Leone, and they introduced themselves each time by saying their name and saying, "I am youth leading the world in Sierra Leone." And that originates with the support and mentorship and walking alongside and brilliant companionship that Sue has provided for these youth from Sierra Leone.
I'll add that.
Can I just make a comment? Sorry, Ben. The thing that strikes me about this, Stephanie, is that the voices of these young people has been the most amazing healing experience for me. They are the most amazing teachers for me, and witnessing their culture and community, I see wholeness that I do not witness in my own community, and it is just a balm for the soul.
That's what I was saying yesterday, Sue. I brought together a small gathering of people to talk about climate change and consciousness and its future orientation. And I began it by saying, this has been a gift for me. This is the secret that I wanted them to know, that there is joy in this activism and joy in being able to be a resource and a companion to these youth who, the joy that I felt in hearing them speak and being able to be heard from beginning to end. It sounds like, why would I celebrate such a small thing? But it was just gorgeous to hear them from beginning to end without the internet connection being broken. And they were so eloquent, so incredibly eloquent. And I hope you'll get to look at the video, Sue, and the joy that returns to me. That's what I want people to know about. Feels like it's changed me forever.
Yes, so speaking of the power of voices being heard, let's take a few more minutes to see if some folks we haven't heard from want to offer brief reflection, and leave time then for Lev and Suzanne to bring us home.
Hi everyone, I'm regretting that my video is not working. It's kicking off shortly after I put it on, but I'm here and I'm responding to everything everybody is saying. You just can't see me. I'll try to turn it on when I do my song. Just wanted to say that each new edition of it, now what that I have been part of, I feel, you know, closer and closer to the people who show up regularly. Most of them are here today, and I just feel like when I'm here with you all that I am in that world that I long to live in.
So I haven't been able to participate in a lot of the richness that is part of Now What, unfortunately. And that's often been the case, because it's for me a bad timing. But regardless, even the little bits I'm able to hear, I'm so appreciative of, because there's so much richness in what is being brought, what is being said, what is being brought, the voices that are being voiced and aired, and it causes me, or puts me in a state of deep thought about where we are, what we're doing, where we're going. We, humanity, I mean, and I just appreciate, and every now what, in my view, so because I've been participating now quite a few, but always on the fringe rather than at the center. Every single one has been actually quite different in flavor and nature, even though the community is the same, and the community is becoming more and more grounded and everything. There's also something that is unique about each individual now what. So and you never know in advance what the next one's going to be. So that's really I find that really quite illuminating. I especially enjoyed listening to the reports coming from COP, for example. I also enjoyed the mycelium, and I enjoyed the various bits and pieces that I took part in. They were all very rich and very thought-provoking. So I'm just appreciative of this community, of the Nawat, and of this this setup. Thank you.
Yeah, just loving being here. It's been a brilliant month, and timing it with the COP, interweaving that has been amazing. Seems like they ran COP so that it could run at the same time for us. But yeah, it's just been some beautiful deep spaces, and I felt, though I haven't been involved as much as I wanted to, when I did dip in, it was just perfect. So thank you for creating and curating this wonderful space.
You're muted, Tina. Were you saying something?
I was saying thank you, Vicky. Yeah, I'm just echoing what a few people have said. This edition, it was 4 weeks, I realize, and previous had been 6, but it seemed to fly by even faster than that. And so I'm really, since we're from all different time zones and all over the world, I'm really grateful for the recordings, because some of the reports from COP26 I didn't get to see that I would like to have, but I realize they're available to watch later and listen. So I am super grateful, yeah, for this community, and glad that some of the offerings will be continuing even after, this official closing. So yeah, just wonderful to see you all. And thank you everyone for all your contributions, and love you all.
Thank you, Tina. We love you too. Lev, can you give us a closing ritual, and then we'll hear Suzanne's song, and then hang out for another half hour or so, if people wish.
Sure. Thank you, Ben, for all of your magical interbeing and interweaving. I was just leaving this open to see what wanted to happen after listening to everyone, and these words by Kenny Ozabel who's the co-founder of Bioneers, who just had their conference. I'm listening to the recordings as well. Tina wasn't able to participate, but I have this in my book here in Climate Leadership. He says, part of the original instructions resides in traditional ecological knowledge. For millennia, indigenous peoples have acted as guardians of the biological diversity of the planet. They've successfully managed complex reciprocal relationships between diverse biological and human cultures, with their eyes on the time horizon of 7 generations to come. To get through this keyhole, we're going to need the enduring knowledge of indigenous science, as well as the best of leading edge Western science. So with that, I just invite us all to, we can close our eyes. And we began a few weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, I called in the directions, the 7 directions. And we can do that again. This time, instead of standing and turning, I'm inviting everyone to make that motion within yourself, to realize where you are in space, as well as in time. But to first, this is a technology that I have learned from indigenous people. They always know where they are in space. As far as I have learned, that the east and the south, the west, the north, above and below. And then I am at the center of all that. I am one of the centers. Then there's the center of the earth also. So like that, I was listening to Charles Eisenstein this past weekend, in tune with this Now What gathering. It was his book, the more beautiful world that we all know is possible. He was saying that, there is a sense of urgency, yes, right now, and sometimes we actually don't know what to do. So in that moment, it actually is best to not do anything and to orient ourselves. So I think that happens to me sometimes, many times a day. I don't know what to do. I have to stop. I have to listen. I have to remember, where am I in space and time? So those are the original teachings, the ancient teachings that are still with us, that they're going to get us through this keyhole, as Kenny Oswald, passed on that information. So I invite us to turn inside in your heart, and you can even think about it. Where am I in my home? Which window am I looking out of right now? I'm looking out of the window at Monument Mountain. It's called, it's a sacred mountain, the Mahiwi Mountains here in the Berkshires. And eastern sunlight comes over that mountain here, the original land of the Stockbridge Munsee band of the Mohicans. Here, so I turn to the east and say, this is the end of the Now What Gathering 2021, but it's a new beginning. There's a new beginning here at this ending. Here, the sun comes up again tomorrow, and then we can turn to the south inside of us when you follow that sun across the sky, and then there's going to be work up ahead. In the middle of the day, the sun gets hot, and brilliant, and energizes us, inspires us to do the work that's in our hearts, to continue on, that we've been nourished by this Now What gathering, whatever level of participation each one of us, but we've known that it's happening. and it nourishes our hearts. It's a good thing. Thank you to the organizers and to the participants and to the prayers that have been made to allow this to unfold as it has. And then we can turn to the west when the sun goes down, when it gets dark again, and into the future and say, thank you for now what, that it's in good hands. It's going to continue on. It's based in a good way of life, a good way of thinking. And in that one heart and that one mind together, we can move forward and be guided by these living teachings that allow for the living earth to continue on. We don't know how, but we know it will be. It will be. We will find a way. The children will continue to live here, and of all species, it will be that way. This is how I understand it. Then we can turn to the north as well, and to the ancestors who whisper to us. They teach us. We don't know what to do sometimes, but those ancestors, they were talking to us all this time through the books and through the oral stories. They've been teaching us. They've been remembering for us and reminding us, how to be at this time. So we say thank you to you in the north, and then we can take our socks and our shoes off, and we can bow down and crouch down and touch the soil, touch the earth, touch the floorboards where the trees come from. The trees go into our floorboards, into our wood. Mother Earth, in our refrigerator, you're there. You feed us. Thank you so much, Mother Earth, taking good care of us. Even all that we've done to you, we say, please forgive us. Please forgive us for our shortcomings. Thank you, Mother and Grandmother, for your compassion that's unending, unconditional, that you see the best in us, that we're going to continue on. We're going to learn, and we're learning already to take good care of you, take better care of you, to remember the original instructions. And then we can also turn to the sky above, the sun, the moon, and the stars, all the planets, the great mystery that's beyond, and say thank you for that inspiration, the beings that we might have met or might not yet have met, those star beings that come from other places. Say thank you to you, to know that we're on one planet in a large expanse of mystery. And then we can then turn to ourselves, our hearts at the center. I'm at my own center. I can orient myself in that way, in relationship with each of you and these directions, the guardians of the east, the guardians of the south, the guardians of the west, the guardians of the north, the guardians of the earth, the guardians of the sky. They all take care of me, and they take care of you here at the center. So we can remember that who we are and what we do matters, that we're here. And at the same time, in one pocket, I can take out this saying. It says, the whole world, it was created just for me. When I feel myself hopeless and helpless, it was all created for me. So I need to do my best to stay with it. And then when my head gets too big, then I can look at the other pocket, and it just says, I am but dust and ashes. I'm part of Mother Earth. I'm just soil and bones and minerals. So like that, together, each one of us are magical beings. And together we're going to make a way into the future. This is the first day of the rest of our lives. And so thank you so much, each and every one of you, for your service and your presence here. Amen.
We have made a tapestry of love. Together we have woven it with threads from up above. With every song and harmony we pulled a color through. One thread is us, one thread is me, one thread is you. And so we are weaving something beautiful that nobody knew before. We'll wrap it round our shoulders through the days and through the nights until we meet again. Oh, 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 we have made a tapestry of light. With every beaten rhythm calls our spirit to take flight, and every act of joy has pulled another color through. One thread is us, one thread is me, one thread is you, and so we are weaving something beautiful that nobody knew before. We'll wrap it round our shoulders through the days and through the nights until we meet again. Oh, 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 until we meet again.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.